Welcome back, everybody, to Constructive Uncoupling. I'm Judy Weigel, your host, and your amicable divorce expert. Why? Because that's all I do, amicable divorces. My company is Divorce Resource Incorporated in Los Angeles. I'm a mediator, and I also file for amicable divorces. Amicable divorces, by the way, mean that both people can speak to one another enough to make decisions for the settlement, and neither person feels the other is hiding significant assets. It's very general to be able to have an amicable divorce. It doesn't mean that you agree with one another, and it doesn't mean that you communicate as well as you could, but the intention is there to communicate, and that's good enough to start. Today's podcast is going to be a continuation of one that we did recently regarding mental health challenges and divorce. Today's podcast will be about co-parenting with a narcissist. Co-parenting with a narcissist is tricky. Narcissists can't empathize. Narcissists can't acknowledge that their actions cause people pain. Narcissists need to control people and situations in order to feel in control themselves. Narcissists cannot make plans with other people and stick to them easily. Narcissists are not good team players. That's a lot to start the foundation of co-parenting with a narcissist. So how do you do it? How do you co-parent with somebody who cannot make plans, stick to them, doesn't understand how his or her actions cause others pain, and cannot be part of a co-parenting team? Well, here are ways to help you live as harmoniously as possible in a co-parenting relationship with a narcissist. Number 1, live your life with the understanding that you'll always have to have a plan B when engaging with a narcissist. Working in tandem with them will keep you insecure, on edge, and generally out of control with each event, like picking the children up from the house or school, dropping the children off at your house, having them commit to the activities that they promised with the children, showing up at the parent-teacher conference on time, or anything in which engagement is necessary. They like to change their plans at the last minute because this allows them to feel in control. And control is really important with a narcissist because you have to understand underneath that control is the fear of being out of control. So, moving on. Accept that it will probably never change, this changing of the schedule, and do not talk about the concept of fairness because a narcissist doesn't understand fair. Understanding the concept of fair would mean that a narcissist has empathy, which is absent in a narcissist. Narcissists don't ask to be born this way. This condition is as much of a hindrance to their lives as it is to yours and your children's. Number 2. Set parameters for yourself and explain those parameters to your ex. Don't defend those parameters, especially if they provide considered leeway to the narcissist. Don't make the parameters difficult because you feel it's not fair that you have to manage your ex's behavior with the children. For instance, if your narcissist ex is either too early or too late returning the children to you, and it is problematic to other plans that you have, you can say, for instance, well, if you're past X o'clock returning the children, I have to leave, so just keep the kids overnight. Okay, I have to say that again because that's absolutely one of my favorites, because it really gets to the core of the narcissist being in control. I'm going to say it again. And this is you talking to your narcissist ex. If you're past, let's say, 9 o'clock, let's say that's your curfew time to get the kids back. If you're past 9 o'clock returning the children, I have to leave then, so just keep the kids overnight. Or, please feel free to come as early as you like, but I won't be able to have the children ready until X o'clock. So this is if they have to pick the children up from you and you need them to come within a certain time range. Let me say that again. Please feel free to come as early as you like, but I won't be able to have the children ready until 6 o'clock. Make sure the kids always have a change of clothes with them, or lots of clothes at each house, so that the children aren't compromised, and the ability to do homework if needed. So not only do you have to set yourself up with parameters with the narcissist, but you really have to look out for your children too. So the things that really bother the kids are homework and clothing. Well, maybe the Xbox and the phone. But, your kids have their concerns too. So if the narcissist parent is either too early, too late, and the kids aren't ready, this is where their concerns are. So definitely have 2 households set up with most of what the children need. Homework does have to go with them, though. So the kids now have to start learning responsibility to take their homework with them. And so that'll be interesting what the kids are going to learn from this relationship with a narcissist parent. All right, number 3, set firm boundaries with respect to what you will adjust if the narcissist is late to pick up the kids, for example, or late returning them. Provide a deadline to pick up the children, and from that point forward, move on with another activity and just don't answer the door. Again, this bears repeating. You have to set firm boundaries with respect to what you will adjust if the narcissist is late to pick up the kids, for instance, or late returning them. Provide a deadline to the narcissist to pick up the children, and from that point forward, if he or she doesn't, move on with another activity and just don't answer the door. You do not have to be bound by the unilateral adjustment in the narcissist schedule, especially if they have not called and asked if it's okay. So if they call and ask if it's okay, you can still have your boundaries. You can say, well, as I mentioned before, this is my deadline. If you can make it, fine. If you can't, don't worry. We're just going to move on with another activity. And that's also really important. Don't worry. That takes the narcissist out of control. Well, it's interesting because you're not really wrestling with control. You're actually mitigating control. You're telling the narcissist, okay, well, I'm prepared if the schedule changes. We do have a plan B, and that's another activity. So it's okay, but we do have to move on because we do have our own time deadlines that we all have to work in. I want to introduce you to a man named Bill Eddy. He's extraordinary, amazing, unbelievable. I hope he never dies. But if he does, he's left a legion of books available for you to read. So his name is Bill Eddy, E-D-D-Y. He's an attorney, a social worker, and a mediator. He's the author of, 10 to 12 books, all available on Amazon, and they're all regarding divorce and people with personality disorders. Narcissism is one of the all-time top personality disorders. I highly recommend his books because he addresses narcissism and the myriad of other personality disorders like sociopathic, histrionic, borderline. They go on and on. And you really need to know what your ex or soon-to-be ex has so you know how to communicate. You know how to behave. This is why it is so essential to get education. The blame has to stop. Education has to start. Reading his books will enhance and change your life forever. I guarantee it. Bill has a method for successful engagement with narcissists that he calls the BIF Method. BIF is an acronym for brief, informative, firm, and friendly. Again, brief, informative, firm, and friendly. Bill suggests that when speaking to a narcissist, be brief, in what you want to communicate. For instance, the children will be ready at 6 o'clock for you to pick them up. Be informative about your parameters. If you are not available to pick up the children by 6 o'clock, please call to see if a later time will work for them and for me before the visitation time has to be canceled. Interesting. You just gave the alternative ahead of time so that the narcissist doesn't feel like the rug is pulled out from him or her when they show up extraordinarily late and the kids aren't even there. Be firm in your position. For example, I and the children are not able to be as flexible as you might require. And that's really interesting because you're acknowledging that they need flexibility, but you're also making the narcissist aware that you and the children don't have that level of flexibility. And then lastly, be friendly. Be friendly in your tone of voice and your language. Don't be condescending, don't be rude, don't be uppity, passive-aggressive. It doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Get the emotion out of your voice. Always smile when you talk to a narcissist, even on the phone, because you know your smile comes through. And keep your tone of voice without anger or judgment. It's so hard to do, but once you learn that that's your safety valve, that's your out, that's your ace, being friendly, being without judgment, but being firm and informative, I am telling you, your life will change. I mean, we have a narcissist in our family, a lovely human being, but I learned how to deal with that person, and we have a great relationship. Because I don't think that all narcissists want to be hurtful. I really don't think that. And I don't think they even get when they're being hurtful. They just are who they are. And so you have to simply work around it. Being friendly is extremely important when dealing with a narcissist because you can't control a narcissist, but you can control your own attitude. A casual, low-key, positive attitude is your best defense because the narcissist can only get mad at the fact that he or she is being provided a framework in which to act, and not an attitude that is in and of itself a point of argument. See, that's what it is. If you get mean, then there's the argument. If you're nice and smile, well, you can't be argued with in terms of your attitude because you don't have a bad attitude. You're just being informative and firm while being friendly. Plus, the message that you'll deliver to the narcissist will be delivered with warmth, totally disarming to the narcissist. Narcissists aren't used to people treating them with warmth because, why? Everybody gets mad at a narcissist like you do, like you have, like I have. Not worth it. A narcissist is used to people getting angry at him and not used to a message delivered with kindness. So definitely remember that as your bottom. Number 4, explain to the children how a narcissist functions. So this is how you pull the children into it now. And ask them not to blame the other parent. The kids really can't do that. The kids have to start learning how to function like you do with the dearly beloved narcissist, especially if the narcissist is providing for you. So you have to know where your meal ticket is, and so please be nice to the meal ticket as much as possible. Explain to the children that people don't ask to be born with personality disorders, which is what narcissism is. But show them how to set boundaries with their parent so that they can stay in control too of their emotions, their time, and their commitment to other people and planned activities. So the kids have to feel like they have control as well. You know, first of all, the kids lost control when the marriage didn't work. Now they have to find their own centers of control. I mean, even if they're in a family where there is no divorce, they're still learning where their boundaries are for control. But now that they don't have, the single family household, they're even more out of control. And when they're dealing with a narcissistic parent, exponentially more. So just work with them on how to maintain their own boundaries. I want to share with you a story about a family where the father is a narcissist, nice man, good provider, money is not an issue, time is the issue with this narcissist father, and the expectation that he has to adjust his schedule if he wants to be part of his children's school and artistic and sports activities. Here's the story. Amy, the 4-year-old daughter, has a piano recital on a Sunday morning that has been on the family calendar for a month. It's the morning of the recital, and Amy, her mother, and her brother Andy are ready to leave. Ted, the narcissist father, called downstairs to say he is just getting into the shower. With shaving and dressing, the expected departure time has shifted by at least 45 minutes later. Amy, the 4-year-old, is beside herself. She is not only nervous about her performance, but now she's nervous that she won't make it on time to perform if the family all goes together. And she so wanted her dad to drive with the family. She now starts to tear. But her mother already thought about how to manage the situation if Dad took time into his own hands. Clara, the mom, previously spoke with Ted and explained that if he wasn't able to meet them at the time previously specified, that the family would meet him at the recital. When Clara calls to remind Ted of the parameters, calls upstairs, to remind Ted of the parameters explained a month ago, Ted behaves as if Clara is punishing him. Clara, keeping a smile in her voice and a non-aggressive and non-blaming tone out of her voice, simply reminds Ted of the conversation she had about timing and says that the family is looking forward to seeing him when he arrives. Obviously, it's a 2-car family. Clara then speaks with Amy and explains again that Dad has a hard time with time and that it's not his fault because everyone has issues that are difficult for them. Time is one of Dad's issues, but it doesn't mean that Dad doesn't love Amy. It just means that Dad has a hard time with time and schedules. Clara asks Amy if she can look forward to seeing her dad when he does arrive, and know that both of her parents are excited about her performance. So embodied in this is the dad eventually arrives. The dad just doesn't go with the family. So the end goal is met. Amy gets to have both of her parents at the recital, but unfortunately they're just not going to all be in the same car. And that's just part of it. You have to give up something in order to get to the end point with a narcissist. So the end point is the family is together. The end point after a divorce happens is that each parent is with their child, but maybe they get to the end point a little differently, or it may not work out today that the child is with her narcissist father, but they will get together again. They just will. So, in recap, dealing with a narcissist in a co-parenting relationship is not only hard on the other parent, but it's very hard on the children. If you can, look at this situation as an opportunity to teach your children life skills like understanding, like a non-judgmental attitude, teach your children independence, and the ability to have control over their time and their lives while interfacing with a narcissist who is probably doing the best they can do until they develop a level of self-awareness that will allow them to change. And I do believe, and Bill Eddy does believe, that with awareness, and maybe not the most extreme amount of narcissism, narcissists can change. But they have to change with guidance, non-judgmentalness, because don't forget, there's a fear. The underlying fear is control. So you don't want to be under a narcissist's control, but you want to show the narcissist that they still have control. I mean, the control would be sticking to the schedule. If they can, no, the control would be initially when setting the schedule, let the narcissist start. Let the narcissist lay down what works for the narcissist first. And then you go in with your schedule. This is, when you're doing your co-parenting plan, approaching the end of the divorce so that you can execute it successfully once the divorce is over. So let the narcissist be the first one out the gate to lay down what works for them. And then you go ahead and put in your schedule. And then you really have to discuss the logistics. And at that point, while you're working out the co-parenting plan, look at the plan Bs. Start with the divorce settlement with your plan Bs so that it's written and you always have your settlement agreement as a reference point. Your settlement agreement is your contract moving forward, and it is your reference point for everything. And contracts are not meant to be an issue of truthfulness. They're an issue of memory. I don't care what contract you write, and I've written 1 million contracts for different reasons throughout the years. If you think that your settlement agreement in any contract is going to make the other party honest, it ain't going to happen. It just isn't like that. If a person is dishonest, they're not going to care about what's written down. Your settlement agreement, like any contract, is an issue of memory. Because people honestly don't remember. There's so much going on when you're getting divorced. There's so much that's part of the settlement discussion that you just really have to go back. And it's funny because when I do lots of mediations in a tough settlement agreement and everything is worked out, we've spent a lot of time, we come in to sign it, and the very next week, I'll get people calling me saying, well, he or she isn't doing what they said. This is what we said. And what did we say? That's the other thing. So what do we do if this happens? They will forget all the plan Bs. They will forget all the contingencies. And I will simply say, please refer to the settlement agreement. This is what it's for. It's to keep you both on track because it's a lot to remember. And people are flooded when they're going through a divorce. I mean, people are flooded now. There's just too much information floating around our brains. But going through a divorce, part of our brain shuts down because it's too much trauma. It's too much emotion. It's too much sadness. There's too many decisions. Your entire life is changing. So when you're doing your settlement agreement, especially if you're divorcing a narcissist, you put in those plan Bs and contingencies so that you both know going in that you have alternatives if anything changes. And then I have another example. So in the lexicon of reality television, my guilty pleasure, of course, all on Bravo for me, the Housewives series, we saw Candy Burris of the Atlanta Housewives raise her daughter Riley without Riley's father being part of Riley's life. We learned that there were no-show appointments with Riley's dad and Riley, months and years, heartbreakingly so, without phone calls from her dad, and countless birthdays without gifts. If the edited version of the footage we watched was true, Candy appeared to always encourage Riley to be open if her dad approached her, while explaining to Riley that her dad may not have the tools to be an attentive father. And that was really great because Candy didn't put put the father down. She always was looking for the time that Riley's father may want to be part of Riley's life. And she wanted to leave that door open, which I know a lot of parents do. And my heart aches, but you got to do it. You really have to do it. But while trying softly to keep the door open for Riley's father to walk through, Candy also allowed Riley to make up her own mind in regard to involving Riley's father in Riley's life. So Candy gave Riley control over her life while trying to give her parental direction in how to deal with an extremely sad situation where Riley didn't have her father as part of her life, and they all lived in Atlanta, all in the same city. Her dad just wasn't able to be a dad. He just didn't have it. And, just because you can have children doesn't mean you should. And that's the toughest part of having kids. How many parents are parents and should never be parents? So you have to play, you just have to play in that role of giving your child the tools to have control, to be open-minded, to be sensitive to the other parent's issues, but to be able to express themselves as well and make their own choices, whether they want to be with their parent at all. And I think, and, see what you think with people in your life or your own children. Kids really want to have a good relationship with their parents. Kids will always come back and come back and come back. In an extreme situation, maybe not, but kids tend to give their parents a lot of rope to screw up, always looking for that bond and that attachment that's natural. So work with your kids on dealing with a narcissist, because none of this is easy, but it is manageable. The way we learn how to deal with life as an adult is through our experiences as children. If you can model behavior to your children that shows them how you manage a co-parenting relationship with your narcissistic ex in a way that supports your independence with consideration to the other parent, you can teach your children how to manage those relationships in their lives as adults too. Thank you so very much for joining me on this podcast, Constructive Uncoupling. I'm your host, Judith Weigel. My company is Divorce Resource Incorporated in Los Angeles. And the gentleman I referenced earlier, Bill Eddy, EDDY, please go on Amazon and look for his books. You will do yourself such a favor. He has books on every personality disorder, how you handle it, how you handle your communication, how you handle your behavior, how you handle decisions. And when I've referred Bill Eddy and his books to my clients, it literally turned their lives around. So I wish you a good day. I wish you a good life. Please email me at Judy, Judy, at divorceresourceinc.com. Judy, Judy, at divorceresourceinc.com. If you have any questions, or if you would like a certain subject approached on this podcast, I'm happy to accommodate. Thank you for joining me. Talk to you soon.